Hey YouTube, welcome again to Guitar Vocalist, the channel which is all about learning to sing while playing guitar, learning to play guitar while singing, doing both, picking up on the one you struggle in. Basically, the channel is all about just this overall, being able to do both at once and do a good performance. A lot of people here have questions about music theory, so a lot of beginners especially, but I think even if you're intermediate level to maybe advanced, you still might want to always refresh on this a little bit. I still have to refresh on it all the time, and I've been playing for like 15 years. I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible because I could talk about music theory for hours, and I'm going to just try and condense it to something in around 10 minutes. We'll see what it ends up being. Okay, so it all starts with this thing called a note, okay? What is a note? All right, a note is basically a certain frequency. There's these things called notes, and they have a certain frequency to them. The higher the frequency, the higher the note. The lower the frequency, the lower a note. So lower note, higher note, right? The frequency is higher. It all has to do actually with the speed at which the string vibrates in the case of a guitar, or your chords vibrate in the case of your voice. So that's actually why they call it the frequency. So there's 12 notes in Western music, referred to as either A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Si. If you come from Italy or Europe, maybe you've learned the Do, Re, Mi version. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to use A, B, C, D, E, F, G this time. I think most of the world, at least the westernized world, has learned A, B, C, D, E, F, G by now. Now, you may have noticed that these don't add up to 12. I said 12. And that's because actually a lot of them have sharps and flats, except B to C and except E to F. What is a sharp or a flat? Well, this is E. This is E flat. So it's just a half step. And on a guitar, every note is a half step away. These are all half steps I just played. A full step is... and so on. So basically a full step is just you skip a fret every time you play it. But yeah, there is no B sharp or C flat, and there is no E sharp or F flat. The sharp of one note is the flat of the next note. So, for example, A sharp, that's the same as B flat. And here's B. B flat, A sharp, B. So A sharp, B flat, same thing. On a piano, the black keys are the sharps and the flats, and the white keys are the actual A, B, C, D, E, F, G notes. Now the thing about these notes is that they just keep repeating as you go up. So you have 12 of them, and then you have another 12, then you have another 12, and each set of 12 is called an octave. So starting with the guitar with the lowest note in standard tuning E, all the way up to D sharp, this is one octave, basically. From here, this is 12 half steps apart, 12 notes apart, and then you have E again. You hear how these are the exact same note. Now this. So this note right here is actually the next E in the octave. And it keeps going. That's 3 octaves, all E. You can just go. So right now I just played I slid through all the notes in the octave all the way up to the next E. Now over time what people realize is that certain notes sound good when played together in a certain pattern. And the pattern of notes is called a scale. Scales are essentially just combinations of notes that sound good together. Now there's a lot more to scales, but let's just leave it at that for this video. Example of A minor scale. Lots of different patterns like that exist, but minor and major are two of the most common ones. You basically just have to memorize scales. I mean, there's just no way around it. You just have to understand this combination that I just played sounds good in this context. You don't have to memorize every single scale in existence, of course. Just you have to memorize some that you like the sound of, and basically everyone should memorize major, minor, because 95% of music uses those. Now within scales, you have different modes. Here it gets a little bit complex, but where I said A minor, Actually, the A minor scale is the same as C major scale. It's the same notes. It's just that you would start in A instead of starting in C for A minor. In C major, you start in C. But actually, the same exact notes are in there. You can look that up separately. That's beyond the scope of this video. Understand that sometimes when people are talking about modes, they mean scales, and sometimes when they talk about scales, they mean modes. I'll make a whole different video on it because it's a little bit more complex. Now, you can actually have a scale with a root note, like I just played A, that does many things. So that was the minor. But I could do a blues scale. That's part of the blues scale, so it's a little bit changed up notes there. You can also do something like a harmonic minor. That's also an example of a bit of a variation. Actually, it's just like the A minor scale, except one of the notes is pushed up a half step. Don't worry about that. By the way, whenever I say step, that's a step, that's a step. Each one of these is a step. It's a half step, actually. This is a whole step. The best thing if you're a beginner for what to do with scales is just look up ones you like the sound of online. And also, just look up major minor. You always should know those. And when you like these scales, what you can do is you can put them together to form something called riffs or licks, right? So I played a bit of these, right? Like this is a riff. That's a riff in A minor. But basically the concept of that is that it's just sound bites that sound good together. And actually I can put together a bunch of these and kind of make something called a solo. So going off of the previous lick. That was just 3 riffs I put together, so. And basically I could just put all those together and have myself a solo. It doesn't have to be just purely riffs and licks. It can be also just some melody, some melodic phrasing. There's a lot more to it, but the idea is you get it. You combine these scales together in ways which sound good for a melody. Now this is where it gets interesting. Of course, making a melody is one part to a song, but there's one thing I haven't talked about. What if you want to play 2 notes at once? Like this. Now, one of the first places guitarists go to is shying away from this maybe foreign concept to some, but these are chords, alright? So any combination of 2 notes is chords. This is a combination of 3 notes, this is a combination of 6. That's a chord right there. So a lot of guitarists try and shy away from that. It gets complex, and they just try and play these riffs and licks, and that's all they want to do. But where you should really start is chords, because chords make up the rhythm section of a song. So if my rhythm is, if I play that, I have a rhythm over which I can then play the melody and solo. But without the rhythm, you're kind of naked and bare. You have nowhere to go. With the rhythm, you have a foundation. So you need both the melody and the rhythm in basically every song ever made. Now again, with chords, you just memorize chords. You also have, conveniently, major chords, minor chords. So this was E major, and this is E minor. Chords, just like scales, have been figured out to have different combinations that sound good over time. Now when you put all this stuff together, what you have is you have a sort of time signature you play it to. You don't just arbitrarily play these chords in the melody. Somehow you have a clicker, a rhythm, drums, something that basically keeps time for you. And the most common time out there is 4/4 time. You've heard people count 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, something like that. So that's just a rhythm of 4/4. There's many other time signatures out there. Don't worry about what 4/4 means. Just know that it's the most common time. If you want to look up time signatures, you can look them up some other time, but probably 95%, 99% of all pop songs you hear are in 4/4 time. Now, a large distinguishing factor between guitar and piano is that with piano, you kind of lean more towards the melody. With guitar, you kind of lean more towards the rhythm. So that's one advantage of guitar, like I mentioned here with this previous rhythm I played. That's kind of thing you can't do with the piano as well. I mean, you still can, of course. I'm not trying to say piano can't do that, but generally with piano you lean more towards melody. With guitar you lean a little bit more towards rhythm. So here I just gave you a bunch of sort of keywords, right? The idea of this video is not to learn all of music, because I'm sorry, that just takes a lot of time. You can't just do it in 10 minutes. But what you can do is you can kind of see how all these keywords fit together, and you look it up, right? So you could go and look up time signature. You can go up, look up key. You can look up the circle of fifths, which actually is a diagram which shows you how to put together chords. I might do a separate video on that sometime as well. You can look up scales, you can look up modes, you can look up a lot of stuff. And I hope that probably you've been looking it up, and probably at some point in time you've been like, how does this all fit together? Well, I hope this video kind of put it into context for you, how all these things fit together. It's not that complex, really. It's just a matter of getting used to it, kind of like a video game, right? When you just have to learn the rules of the game, and then you're playing it and you know all this stuff. So let me know if this video was helpful. Maybe it was too general for you, maybe it was too specific. Let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer. Again, the goal is really to just give you a sort of quick overview of what all of these musical terms are, how they fit together, and hopefully some light bulbs went off in your head. So anyway, let me know, and until next time.